All right, so my name is Tori. I'm going to talk about postpartum movement today. Um, I am a postpartum doula, so I go into women's homes after they give birth and help with healing postpartum with like food, body work, a bunch of different modalities. So today I'm just going to share what I know about postpartum movement slash exercise. So first we're going to talk about like movement versus exercise and like why I didn't call this postpartum exercise. So a movement is just any motion that we do with our bodies. Um, an exercise is like the intentional act of moving our bodies for a set period of time with a certain intensity and like we have a desired outcome in mind. Often the goal of the exercise is to counteract the fact that we are not moving people. So like basically we think we can sit at a desk all day and then do a 30-minute exercise and somehow that like counteracts it. But the difference between kind of like the philosophy of movement and the philosophy of exercise is that the philosophy of movement takes into account your entire day, and the philosophy of exercise is just kind of based on the 30 to 60 minutes that you're intentionally moving your body to get stronger. So our overall goal should be to be both strong and dynamic. So you can have washboard abs, but you could actually be functionally weak. Like maybe your body's really good at sit-ups, but when you lift really heavy things, when you're doing CrossFit, you pee yourself. This is not like a functional design. And just because you can strengthen one muscle of your body over and over and over again doesn't necessarily mean that your body is strong. So special considerations for like your body in the postpartum period. It is very possible for exercise to do more harm than good in the early postpartum time. So exercise is actually always a stress to our body, and like usually it's supposed to be a good stress. Like when you lift weights, you're intentionally like ripping the tight junctions of your muscles in order to rebuild them stronger, and that's how you gain muscle. So it's usually a good stress, but this can be counterproductive if you are undernourished and already stressed, as we usually are in our postpartum experiences. Chances are that we don't need to add more stress to that and overdo it with the exercise. So the first thing we need to touch on is adequate rest. There's no need to be up actively walking, running, being on an elliptical, especially like while you're bleeding. Physiologically, we need rest. And this is not like a luxury. This is just the reality of postpartum. So some like postpartum affirmations that I tell people or write for people is slow is fast, less is more, or even rest is action, because by resting, you are intentionally healing your body when we're talking about postpartum. And to add in, we are resting now for our future health. So I'm talking about being able to hold in your pee when you're 70 and being able to go through menopause with ease. Proper postpartum nourishment and rest sets you up for long-term pelvic health. So this is not like one of my biggest pet peeves is like I have postpartum clients and their family would be like, "Oh, you're getting so pampered." And it's not pampering. It's like what every woman deserves is to have optimal healing after they give birth. So what is happening in our postpartum physiology? Basically, when we are pregnant, our uterine ligaments are stretching very far to support our growing uterus. So if you think about it, in terms of like when bones break, they actually have a very strong vascular supply. So like 10 to 20% of blood flow will go into the bone and can heal that bone in 6 to 8 weeks. However, ligaments have only like 5% vascular flow, and it takes them 3 to 4+ months to heal. So this is why at your 6-week appointment, when your OB clears you, your abdominal muscles really have only regained 50% of their tensile strength. Those ligaments are not anywhere near actually healed. It isn't around 6 to 7 months before abdominal muscles and tissues return to 73 to 93% of original tensile strength. So exercising in conjunction with like restricting calories will also is like a very good way to deplete yourself, because nature's design is that babies are going to get what they need at expense of the mother. This is why it's prevalent for moms to get cavities during pregnancy and breastfeeding, because your body's literally, if they don't have the proper nutrition, is going to take the nutrients from your bones and teeth to give it to your baby so that they will be healthy. In the postpartum time, you also have relaxin flowing through your body, which is a hormone that softens connective tissues, and that can increase your risk of like pulling a muscle or injuring yourself if you're doing intense exercise in the early postpartum time. So research shows that 1 year postpartum, 48% of 48% of women are still experiencing urinary incontinence or leaking. 50% will have an organ prolapse. 30% will have diastasis recti, which is the ab separation. And 15 to 30% will have pain with sex. So, if we don't properly rest and restore our core postpartum, this is what many women are dealing with. And I was just reflecting on this like today and yesterday, actually, like how often we wish people a speedy recovery or get well soon. And like we do it with very good intentions, obviously. But I think especially when it comes to like new moms, we need to not be saying like, I hope you have a speedy recovery or like bounce back fast. Like we need to really take the time to like rest, and it's not supposed to happen fast. Okay, so how do we do that? The first 6 weeks, really the best thing you can do is breath work and conservative stretching. So the first thing is belly breathing. So I will show you here that what you want is, usually in our society, you know, we're wearing tight pants, we're trying to suck in our belly all the time, but we kind of want to counteract that and breathe into our belly and into our ribs, like we're trying to inflate this whole area. And as you do that, your pelvic floor muscles are going to lengthen and relax. That's your inhale. On your exhale, you draw your pelvic floor upward, like what people would call a Kegel. You draw your pelvic floor upward, your ribs close in, and your abdominals engage, and you breathe out. So as you're breathing in, you're relaxing everything and opening your belly. As you breathe out, you're tightening and lifting your pelvic floor. So you can practice this 1 to 2 times a day for 10 to 15 breaths each time. And like the problem with Kegels, like why most pelvic floor physical therapists don't recommend just Kegel after Kegel after Kegel, is because it's kind of like doing a bicep like this. You're just doing like the lift. When you do it with a breath, you're also intentionally softening. So you want to make sure you soften all the way down, relax every single muscle in your pelvic floor before you lift back up. And that is what gives you like the full range of motion. The other thing I wanted to show you was to actually make sure that you are lifting, like inhaling your ribs. You can wrap something around your waist, and then as you breathe in, you can literally feel if your ribs are doing like a 360 expansion or not. And it just kind of gives you more of like a tangible way to measure what you're doing. The second thing is box breathing. So this is just kind of doing things on counts for 4. So we could actually do a few of these together. We're going to inhale for 4, hold our breath for 4, exhale for 4, and then hold for 4. So in, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, in, hold, out, hold, 3, 4. You can't actually do that while you count. I just found out. And then the other one is lengthened exhale. So this is when, and like if you are a fast counter, you could always change these numbers up, or if you're a slow counter, vice versa. But the point is that you are exhaling for longer than you inhale. So you can inhale for 4 and exhale for 6. It's good to do inhales through your nose, exhale through your mouth, that type of thing. So any sort of breathing exercises are really going to be wonderful for waking up your pelvic floor in the 6 weeks after birth, because sometimes it just feels like jello, like you cannot like find or activate those muscles the correct way. Also, like cat-cows would be a completely safe exercise to do, and you can do that like on an inhale as you go one way, exhale as you go the other way. And Dr. Nate actually has a really good handout on pelvic tilts against the wall, as well as those things that he puts on the chairs, like the bubble things. If you have one of those in your house, or every time you go to the office, really practice your pelvic tilts on those chairs. So after you are done with the 6-week mark, of course, we can like up it a little bit, but really the point is that if you are just really focused on resting in the beginning, hopefully you will be ready for some more stuff between 6 weeks and 6 months. So like walking and hiking, swimming, yoga, or like postpartum specific programs, and then Tai Chi or Qigong. Those were listed in my postpartum manual from the class that I took. I have not actually done any of those classes. Tai Chi, or is it actually, I think it might be called Qigong. I don't know. Now if we're talking about running and jumping, just because again those ligaments are so weak and you have relaxin still flowing through your body if you're breastfeeding, running and jumping are not a good idea until after 6 months postpartum. And relaxin's going to stick around as long as you're breastfeeding. An SI belt may be really helpful to like stabilize your pelvis, and Dr. Nate sells a lot of those, and I have one, and it's very nice. So in terms of like overall like strength, wellness, pelvic floor health, the first step to changing your habits is just to be aware of them. So if you take a piece of paper and fold it like the same way over and over and over again along that same crease, it kind of starts to wear and tear in that area. and our bodies are the same. If we are doing the exact same routine every single day, sitting in the exact same places, in the exact same positions, always doing steps with one foot the same way, hitting a volleyball with the same arm over and over and over and over again, we start to wear on those parts of our body. So we just need to start being aware and like, oh, if we always carry heavy things with this hand, why don't we try carrying it with another hand? Why don't we try going up the steps in a way that feels weird, like using your less dominant foot first, or like skipping a step and going slower and using different muscles. Or like I was carrying like a heavy drywall bucket yesterday of water, and like I would go 10 steps with one hand and then 10 steps with the other hand, trying to like maintain good posture as I lift it. Another thing for like, if you're lifting young children and stuff, you always want to like take a deep breath in, and then as you lift your child up, you're doing the exhale, and you're zipping up your core, exhaling as you're lifting something up. So if you're doing heavy lifting, whether it be weights, children, like whatever, you can practice this throughout your day, because being a human, we actually tend to do this type of thing all the time. So anytime you're bending down to pick something up, you can practice taking a big deep inhale, expanding your belly, and then zipping up on your way up to when you pick up the thing, zipping up your core and like contracting your abs in this way on the exhale. So how we sit is a big thing too. So if we're always slouching and like tucking our tailbone in and like sitting right on our tailbone, that's gonna affect our pelvic floor, as opposed to, I don't have another chair in here, as opposed to sitting on our sits bones. I'm gonna So like this would be an example, obviously, of slouching, and this would be an example of sitting on your sits bones, like lining up your pelvis with your ribs, with your ear, like so. So you can practice like sitting on the edges of your seat instead of leaning back onto the back of a chair and like sitting right on your tailbone. So shoes we wear also, as soon as any shoe has some sort of heel, it's going to require that you adjust your pelvic tilt and your rib cage to compensate. So we want to walk barefoot as much as possible, or in barefoot shoes. There are a lot of barefoot shoe companies that make flat shoes that bend really easily with your foot, and they're made to address whole body health, because your feet are actually like the foundation of your core. So if your feet are off, if you're wearing a heeled shoe, your pelvis has to tilt to compensate for that. Tightness of our clothes is another big thing. Like wearing tight jeans really is going to compress all of those abdominal organs, and it could actually cause like things like waist trainers and stuff that are really tight around your waist. It's a pressure issue, so it's going to force things either up or down, and it could cause a prolapse, it could cause a hernia, because those are just problems with intra-abdominal pressure. Also, like how much we walk, our posture when we walk, and rib flare. So ribs are a big one. We want to make sure, like, if we're ever lifting something overhead, we're not like flaring our ribs back. We really want to keep our ribs, like every time that you breathe out, your ribs are coming to a neutral place and not flaring up and out. So like these are kind of 4 general movements that Katie Bowman recommends. So Katie Bowman is, how does she describe herself? Like a biodynamic, she's not a physical therapist. I should have, but yeah, she describes herself as like a biodynamic movement expert or something like that. So she really focuses a lot on walking, squatting, and floor sitting, how to lift and carry things. And then once you kind of master those three, she talks about a lot about hanging and swinging, which I have not gotten to yet. Like, she talks about if you take your kids to the playground, you might as well try the monkey bars. But like, make sure that you are strong in other ways before you do that. So she has a bunch of books. Diastasis Recti is the one that I own, but she also wrote something called Move Your DNA, Dynamic Aging, Movement Matters, Whole Body Barefoot, and Alignment Matters. So she's just done a ton of research on the body and posture and stuff. So here are some resources. You could take a picture of this slide if you would like to. So some physical and occupational therapists that are in the area are Darla Schwab at Altman North, and Rachel Russell is at Rooted Pelvic Wellness in Wadsworth. So if you are having like pelvic issues, either in pregnancy or postpartum, I would highly, highly recommend you go see one of those women. There's also, if you Google Nourish Move Love, I think their website is just nourishmovelove.com. They have a whole Diastasis Recti 28-day plan with exercises that are safe for diastasis. There's also this company called BirthFit. You do have to pay for their program, but it is designed by a chiropractor and a very good program. Also, Lauren Ohayon, I'm not sure how to say her name, but she's a very good follow on Instagram. She also has like a Restore Your Core program, but she will just post video after video of different movements and exercises to do for your pelvic floor and like back pain and stuff like that. So if you follow her on if you have an Instagram, I would follow her. And then the book, The Fourth Trimester by Kimberly Ann Johnson, is really about everything that has to do with postpartum, not just exercise and movement, but this is like a very, very, very good book to have as well.